Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have a book haul. It seems strange to be saying that considering that I still think myself on this book buying ban until I have read all of the books from my shelves. Indeed, these books have been put aside and will not be getting read until I've read the books that were still on my shelves at the end of 2023. Due to the fact that both my mother and I were off work last Friday, we had decided that we were going to go to Buxton and Tideswell and Bakewell for some second-hand book buying. Originally this came about because my friend Joy visited Tideswell a few months ago and recommended their second-hand bookshop, which is in an old bank. And I knew that on the way we had to go through Buxton, which is where my brother lives. And Scribner's, the bookshop there, is a brilliant second-hand bookshop set over 5 floors. And I talked in my vlog about how I went there and I did not have enough time to explore those floors because we parked outside and there were only 40 minutes worth of parking and we just didn't have enough time to explore the entire place. It would take hours for me to explore that place to a fashion that I would be happy with. There were a few books there and that I was umming and ahhing over, but ultimately decided that my want to read them was not strong enough when I got so many other books on my shelves that I wanted to get through. Similarly, I considered buying some Terry Pratchett, some Tom Holt and one Robin Hobb from a bookshop in Tideswell. My mother did buy 2 Mills and Boon and she's still upset about the price, but I didn't find anything there. However, when I got to Bakewell, I went into the second-hand bookshop there called Bookends, and originally when I went, the first time, it was in this corner, which was why it was called Bookends, and you had to go through this gate, and I didn't know it had been there. And I'd been visiting Bakewell for about a decade before I found this shop, and then the second time I went to visit it, they'd moved across the road. Anyway, I didn't find the Dick King-Smith book that I wanted, but I did find 3 books in there. Now, my plan had been to look for Barbara Pym, Elizabeth Bowen, Molly Keane, or Elizabeth Jane Howard, all contemporaries of Elizabeth Taylor, whose works I have been reading this year. In the bookshop in Tideswell, I did find a copy of Elizabeth Jane Howard, but it was the final book in the Castlereagh Chronicles. So naturally, I didn't buy it. And then I got to Tideswell and I found the first book, The Light Years. I think I prefer the editions of these books that Lauren of Lauren and the Books has shown on her channel, and should I like this book, I might acquire that set instead. I will try and read this first book and then get the remainder out of the library. The only difficulty that I've ever found getting these books from the library is that I've never found the first book there. But on the blurb here, it has a quote where somebody says, "This chronicle will be read like Trollope as a classic about life in England in our century." And if it's reminiscent of Anthony Trollope, then I'm already happy. I know that a few people have read and enjoyed this book over the years, but when I was reading a biography of Elizabeth Taylor, it said that she was friends/acquaintances with Elizabeth Jane Howard, which was one of the reasons that I wanted to get a book by this author. So do we mind if we read the blurb together? Every summer, brothers Hugh, Edward and Rupert Cazalet take their wives and children back to their childhood home in the heart of the Sussex countryside. There they join their formidable parents and unmarried sister Rachel for 2 months of glorious sunlit days full of childish games and picnics on the beach. But not even this idyllic setting can alleviate heartache, fear and loneliness. Hugh, haunted by memories of battle in France, is terrified at the prospect of another war. Handsome, charming Edward, who escaped the war unscathed, is more concerned with matters close at hand, but his wife Villy, desperately bored after her life as a dancer, is unaware of his continuous infidelities. Rupert, the talented painter, finds that he cannot both paint and be married to his beautiful and demanding wife Zoe. And Rachel is so loyal to her family that she has no time to devote to Sid, the woman she feels so passionately about. Intriguing. Definitely intriguing. And with near 600 pages, we'll see how we do with this one. It's not on the cards for this year, is what I will say. I might do this as a project in 2025, but at the moment, this is not a pressing issue for me. Then I saw 2 books by Muriel Spark. The Girls of Slender Means, which I have already read, and I thought a really great book, really nice, short, funny book. Hilary Mantel tried to emulate in one of her books. Was it An Experiment in Love? But The Girls of Slender Means is the original. And yeah, it says on the back here, the chaparral gown, that they all share, all these girls who are living in these apartments, they share when they're going out on a date. Oh, I just really like it. And then we have The Comforters, which is Muriel Spark's first book. I was intrigued by this one because on the back it says that Caroline Rose, the protagonist, recognises that she's in a novel, and I wondered whether we were getting some sort of metafiction narrative from Muriel Spark here. In this one, I've read online that Muriel Spark had recently returned to religion prior to writing this book, and that there is a bit about religion and discovering a religion again after many years, so we'll see how we get on with it. Again, this could end up getting read this year because I do like Muriel Spark and it's relatively short. As with all things, we will see. So then we went around the charity shops in Bakewell. One charity shop, they didn't have anything that I wanted. Then in another, somebody stank so horribly and they were blocking the shop so that I couldn't get to the books, and all their kids were milling about them, and it was such an offensive odour that I left. And I took my mother to a coffee shop, and then after that we went to a bookshop that I can't tell whether they sell new books or remaindered books anymore. It used to be that they simply sold remaindered books and you could get them at a significantly less cost, and you can still do that. But there were a few new books in there, of which this is one of them, The Adventures of Tom Bombadil by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is edited by Christina Scull and Wayne G. Hammered with illustrations by Pauline Baines. And I got this because it matches the Lord of the Rings set that I've got, although it's considerably shorter. I have read some of this because we had a vintage copy at the charity shop, and I read some of that ages ago. So this was really just a case of having the book to add to my shelves. So this is one that, again, is not a priority to read because I've read a lot of it already. Don't know what's going on with that bookshop. It's still a really great one. I think it's called Maxwell's in Bakewell. I would recommend all of the bookshops that I've mentioned today, Bookends and those two, Scribner's, and I never found out what the bookshop was called in Tideswell. But if you're ever in Derbyshire, you could probably do this second-hand bookshop crawl through Tideswell, Bakewell and Buxton. It might take you a few days though, because they are all within an hour of each other, but it took us the entire day and we were knackered at the end of it. But them's the books, and I'm proud of myself for managing to keep it to books that I wanted. And, I was looking for Elizabeth Jane Howard, and so even though it might not get read this year, it's certainly not. I'm glad to have it at the ready, and then hopefully we'll just get the rest from the library, as I say. Them's the books. If there are any you think that I should prioritise, then do let me know. Although quite honestly, the only one that I think will be getting read this year is The Comforters by Muriel Spark. I am going to go and find out just why my dog is barking. Have you purchased any new books recently? Have you purchased any second-hand books recently? Have you visited any of the bookshops that I have mentioned in this video, or are you likely to now that you know about them? I hope that you have enjoyed this video, because until next time, that is all.